We're going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to talk about early childhood. And I'm specifically going to talk about forest kindergartens, which is this kind of funny little undercurrent of innovation in North American schools and going on in New Hampshire schools. And it's likely that your father did not go to a forest kindergarten. But it is likely that your father and your mother, and maybe yourselves, spent a lot of time outdoors, often from after breakfast to when the dinner bell rang, exploring in the woods. And so that kind of freedom of exploration is what forest kindergartens aspire to. Let me give you the cultural context here. The cultural context right now, young kids, even 5 and 6 year olds, 4 and 5 year olds, spend as much as 8 hours a day in interaction with screens. So this has changed radically even over the last 10 years. So the amount of screen time per young child has really radically increased in the last decade. That goes along with a progressive diminishment of the amount of time that kids spend outdoors. So while they're spending 8 hours of screen time a day, they're spending about 40 minutes outside in the natural world, or just outside at all. And this is something else that's been rapidly changing over the last 10 years or so. And then the other interesting context here is that there's a lot of research and talk about grit and perseverance, and how much grit and perseverance is a variable that affects whether children are going to be successful in school or not. So those are some of the context in which the forest kindergartens and nature preschools have emerged. In the United States, nature preschools emerged around the same time as Earth Day did, about 40 years ago. And they have been kind of quietly percolating along in the United States, not very many of them for the last 30 or 40 years. And then there's been a parallel development in Europe of what has been now called forest kindergartens. They started out in Scandinavia being called rain or shine schools, or school in all weathers. So let me give you a kind of a definition of what a forest kindergarten is. This comes from a Scottish document on forest kindergartens. There are early childhood programs that use local woodlands, meadows, streams, and ponds as the setting for learning. They provide regular, frequent contact in the same setting over a significant period of time in all weathers. They provide child-centered freedom to explore using multiple senses and intelligences. And they help children develop cognitive, emotional, and social skills, as well as laying a foundation for stewardship behavior. So that's a good general definition. In Denmark now, 10% of all early childhood programs are forest kindergartens, or have the same kind of character. In Germany, there are almost 1,000 of these kinds of kindergarten programs. In the United States, I've got the best list that exists, I think, of all these programs. There are about 50 or so, but I find out about a new one new one or two every couple of weeks. In New Hampshire, there's the Live and Learn Center in Lee. There's Nature's Wonders in Rye. There's Blue Heron at the Swan Lake Science Center. There's one that sounds really kind of a throwback to the 70s. There's the Heart Center Multi-Age School in Bristol. Orchard School in Allsted doesn't really call itself a forest kindergarten, but they do a lot of the kind of forest kindergarten things. And in Keene, there's the Wild Roots Nature School. It's directed by Liza Lowe at Stonewall Farm that just started this year. And there's another one in Peterborough that's just started up. I want to give you a pictorial sense of what it means for kids to be in these programs. It does not look like your image of sending your kid off to preschool or to the early childhood center. So it's a 2-minute video. This is from a place called Cedar Song. It's on Vashon Island in Seattle, or near Seattle. It's on Vashon Island in Puget Sound.
Now, walk through it. K-N-O-P TUVWXYZ. Now I know my ABCs. Next time we'll say it with meow.
My name is Erin Kenny, and I am the director and lead teacher of Cedar Song Nature School, an entirely outdoor school located on Vashon Island. We run a forest kindergarten for children ages 3 to 5. It's an outdoor preschool. The children are out here no matter what the weather, rain, freezing, snow. Part of the idea is that children learn through direct experience, and the lessons that are provided by nature occur spontaneously and organically through our walks out in nature.
If you get stuck, ask your friends to help you out, okay?
Fever's getting worse than ever. Let's get out of here. Yeah. Like, no, we're not singing. There are bears that eat blood, okay? No drones allowed in here.
Big jump. Whoa, that was a big jump. Let us know if we need more. More?
Round and round the earth is turning, turning always round to morning, and from morning round to night. Round and round the earth is turning, turning always round to morning.
So I like that. There's an array of these that I could have used. I like this one because it's cold, it's not pretty, it's kind of messy, it's thorny, and the kids are really enjoying themselves, right? And as I said, it does not look like going to your, to your local Head Start or the indoor program. So what are they finding in Europe, and what's the research starting to show about having kids have this kind of early childhood experience? I quote you from a book by Paul Tuff called How Children Succeed. The many skills children develop through play, particularly the self-controlled, practiced, and refined and imaginary play, are related to long-term academic achievement. The ability of young children to control their emotional and cognitive impulses, it turns out, is a remarkably strong indicator of both short-term and long-term success, academic and otherwise. So in other words, a lot of the research is showing that this capacity for kids to develop what I was referring to earlier on as grit and resilience seems to be correlated with long-term academic success. More specifically, in the European forest kindergartens where they've compared kids in forest kindergarten or nature preschool programs to kids in conventional programs, the kids are sick less, right? It makes a lot of sense, right? If you put kids inside, in a controlled environment, with a lot of other sick kids, they're going to, the infectious disease spreads. So kids that are outside more in forest kindergartens are sick less. They're absent from programs less. They have better gross motor development. There's more vocabulary growth. That's interesting. And they've got what people are starting to call, this readiness for school. They're patient. They collaborate more. They're willing to ask questions. And they've got they develop this kind of capacity to persevere, to kind of deal with little bits of hardship. I'm going to end my little piece with a great quote from a Swiss dad, and he's describing his experience as a dad with his daughter going to a forest kindergarten. He said, "For 2 years, my little girl went to a kindergarten in the forest. Not a school in the forest, just the forest. No walls, no roof, no heating, only the forest, a few tools, and incredibly dedicated teachers. In the heat of the summer, in the lashing rain, and even in the sub-zero temperatures of the Swiss winter, she would meet her class at the bus stop outside our house, and they would trek for 20 minutes into their clearing in the forest, free to indulge in the savagery that is unfettered childhood, no computer or plastic or chalkboard in sight. One day she came home from a day of particularly vicious downpours. her feet inevitably soaked, her eyelashes caked in mud, her cheeks ruddy with the cold, and her eyes sparkling with fire. And I said to her, "It must have been tough being outside all morning in such weather." She looked at me in genuine incomprehension, looked out the window, and said, "What weather?"
One question for David. We'll take one question for David now before we move on. Or, okay, very good.
Sarah.
Can you say something more about the vocabulary acquisition piece? Anything more about the roots of that?
Yeah, it's, I'm not,
Would you repeat kind of the question, please?
Sarah asked, say more about the vocabulary acquisition piece. There's a lot of interesting speculation about this, but there's so much more dialogue and discourse in these kinds of situations where there's more free play and then more interaction. So in conventional programs, the language is more coming at the kids from the teachers. In these kind of programs, and in indoor programs where there's more play, there's more language interaction, so that the kids are performing more language rather than receiving more language. So it's not specific only to these outdoor kindergartens, but it's specific to kindergartens or preschools where play is more of a part of the interaction. There's also one of the things I'm trying to write about right now is how the roots of language are in natural taxonomy. And so language emerged out of our need to differentiate between objects in the natural world. And so language, I think, in its naturalistic state should be rooted in the natural world rather than separate and distinct from it. That's a longer conversation.